Hey, and welcome to another episode of Small Screen Cinema with Tabitha and Dad. And if Dad looks like he's a little more clear, um, maybe a little more cuddly looking, it's because I'm using my wife's camera, which really highlights how much mine sucked. So, I have ordered a similar camera for my computer so I don't have to steal my wife's, you know. And I'm over the moon. Aren't you, Tabitha?
Can't you tell?
Yes, I can. I can tell you're over the moon. Yes, yes. We are going to look at the 1970 classic, How Awful About Allan. Allan, by the way. You don't see Allen spelt that way too often.
No, not really.
Yeah. And that automatically tells me I can't take this movie too serious if they're not saying that right. But anyway,
Well,
it
you apparently didn't spell my name right, so
no, the proper way to spell it is Bitha. You're not Tabitha, you're
well, that's
Tabitha.
everyone else spells it with an A.
Everyone else is stupid.
I agree.
Okay. Your mother and we both agreed on the spelling. So it was a it was a dual thing. We had people all around us saying, please make it an A. We said, no, it's an I. Powerful people. Powerful people.
Powerful people. Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. The Clintons, hey, you don't spell that name right, you may just disappear like Vince Foster. Oh, boy, there's a blast in the past that absolutely very few people are going to get. Anyway, this movie is called How Awful About Allan, and it is a screenplay by Henry Farrell, and he is best known for a couple of things that I really like. Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, which is a classic. Hush Hush Sweet Charlotte, which is also more of an underground classic. And What's the Matter with Helen? And In his screenplays, he liked to explore the dark part of life, if you haven't noticed that. He died in 2006 at the ripe old age of 85. And it is directed by Gene Curtis Harrington. Parents could not decide on the first name. One wanted Gene, one name wanted Curtis, so they gave him two first names. Gene Curtis Harrison.
Is that what happened?
Harrington.
Harrington.
Harrington, yeah. Um, he did such movies as Killer Bees and Wuthering Heights, and he also did the TV show Beretta, Dynasty, Wonder Woman, and a lot of others. And people of our persuasion, which I will call the right persuasion, um, he is kind of a groundbreaker because he is considered a forerunner to new queer cinema. So
Oh,
he helped usher in a cinema for LGBTQ plus people and allies. He did die in 2007 at the age of 80. Our cast is what really makes me excited because Alan is played by Anthony Perkins, and nobody does a little crazy better than Anthony Perkins. He's Y'all know, I guess you can see, I'm a huge baseball fan. He's in one of my favorite baseball movies called Fear Strikes Out. True story about Jimmy Pearsall, who was dealing with mental health issues when he was a ball player. He was also, of course, in Psycho, Psycho 2, Psycho 3, and Psycho 4, but they don't matter. Psycho is the one that matters. And He was also in Catch 22, the Diana Ross vehicle Mahogany, and Murder on the Orient Express. And he had a fascinating career. He moved at the prime of his career, he moved to Europe and he made a lot of movies in Europe. And then suddenly he came back to the United States and started making movies in the United States. So he's had quite a different career. He died in 1990 at the age of 60, and just love him as an actor. Catherine is played by Julie Harris, and we've already talked about her on Home for the Holidays. And she died in 2013 at the age of 87. And yeah, when we did Home for the Holidays, I initially thought it was a different Julie, and it wasn't. And thought, oh gosh, she was beautiful. Then I realized, no, this is a different lady. This lady's not bad looking or anything like that. She just wasn't the lady I thought she was. Um, Olive is played by Joan Hackett, and she is known for The Defenders, Will Penny, Support Your Local Sheriff. And one of the things that I like about her is she is the former wife of Richard Mulligan. Do you know who Richard Mulligan is?
No.
He was in Soap. You haven't watched Soap, have you?
I watched like the first 3 episodes of Soap a long time ago.
Okay. He was also in the show with Dinah Manoff and Chrissy McNichol. Gosh, what was the name of that show? Um, I should
I
have
don't
wrote it
know.
down. But
You should
anyway,
have.
he's not in this movie, but Joan Hackett was his wife. And she died in 1983 at the age of 49, gone too soon.
Yeah.
And
She was in an ASJ episode.
oh, really?
Yes.
Hmm. And I only put this in because I loved she had a little tiny thing, and I thought, oh, I know that actress. Where do I know her from? And I'll tell you. Um, Molly Dodd plays the inmate. Okay. And I knew her from Vertigo. And she was also in the picture of the Dorian Gray. Uh, she was actually the wife of the writer Henry Farrell, and so she got a
Oh,
bit part in this. But she died in 1981 at the age of 59. This movie aired September 22nd, 1970 on ABC, and it went up against the classic Hee Haw. I love Hee Haw. I actually, with your mom, we went to Nashville to the Grand Ole Opry and we saw the taping of two Hee Haw episodes.
really?
Yes, we did. It was awesome. It was against Hee Haw and To Roam with Love on CBS and Julia and the Ipcress Files on NBC. And I'm not familiar with Julia or the Ipcress Files. Are you?
Julia, wasn't that the show with Diane Carroll where she was the nurse? The black single mother nurse? It's
Could
like a big
be.
deal because it was the first show starring an African American woman.
Ah,
I think it was Julia.
hold on. Alexa, who played in the TV show Julia?
Sarah Lancashire stars as Julie, David Hyde as her husband Paul, and Phoebe Woodworth as Avis DeVoto. The cast also includes Robert Joy, Brittany.
Alexa, shut up. She gave me Julia in the movie. So anyway, the movie opens. We have a dark bedroom, and we're looking kind of like the floor, and then we pan up onto the bed, and
Yes, it was Diane Carroll.
there you go. So your phone is smarter than Alexa.
Yes.
Oh gosh. Okay. Um, pans up, and it pans up from the bottom of the bed to the top of the bed, and then you see Alan. He snaps up in bed awake. You've had the one of those things where you've been jerked awake and you're just automatically wide awake. Um, and he sees shadows under his door. So he goes out of his room and he finds that there is a room on fire. And in this flaming room in the middle, there's a ladder and there's his father in the middle of this fire. And while he's looking at this, he's kind of his sister Catherine runs into the room to try to save dad. Well, we see that there's a neighbor and her name is Olive. She is calling the fire department, and then she runs out of her house next door, and Olive finds Alan coming out of the house, and he says, "Father is dead. It's my fault." And she asks about Catherine, and Alan is just disheveled, and the responders bring Catherine out. She's got a big burn scar on her face. And Alan says that he can't see, that he's blind. That's very important in this movie because whenever I talk about Alan seeing something, he only sees fuzzy images and he can't make them out. I liken it to this. If you've ever remember the old showers that had shower doors and they would be frosted. So if someone walked into the shower, you're in the shower, they only saw like a blur of you. They didn't see your naughty bits, as the British would say. That's what it looks like every time they're showing through his eyes. So when I say
He,
Alan sees a figure or Alan saw this, he's not really making anything out, but a lot of blurs and moving figures.
yeah, so he doesn't see total darkness, but he would definitely be considered legally blind. Like, don't let him drive.
Yeah. Yep. So then we cut to Alan, and he's at a doctor's office in a state hospital.
Oh, also, this is an Aaron Spelling production. That son of a bitch. Just, had to point that out.
Yeah, I saw that, didn't bring it up. I can't believe he didn't Victoria in here somewhere. She may
I
not have
don't
been
know if she was
born,
born yet.
but anyway. Um, so the doctor is telling him that blindness is not his blindness is not a physical problem, it's a psychological problem. And
And I was like, what is he, a woman?
I see what you did there. So, the doctor tells him he is blaming himself for leaving the paint and the turpentine close to the heater, which started the fire. You already had a bad relationship with your old man, and your sister is also injured. You feel guilt about the scar on her face. That's why you only have partial recovery of your sight, and you can only see in blurs because you've got a lot of shit going on upstairs that you need to deal with.
Which
So,
it does sound like he either deliberately started the fire or he's very stupid. Yeah, I'll just leave the paint thinner right here next to the heater.
yeah, it is stupid. I do work with a lot of stain when I do woodworking, and once I stain something with a rag, I have a bucket with water in. I put that rag in the water until I wash it because just having uh paint stain, oil-based wood stain from paint, that can spontaneously combust in the right conditions. And you do see a lot of wood shops that are flames because people are discarding their staining rags without making sure that they're drenched in water. So yeah, if this house ever goes up, I'm gonna blame myself. So but I do take every precaution to make sure that that doesn't happen. So the doctor tells him that you get some more help and the guilt will go away and the sight will fully come back. And then he gives Alan a local doctor in his town that he should call on when he gets back home. So he's being discharged from the state hospital, and the doctor also encourages him to use a tape recorder to verbalize his thoughts. And I was actually thinking of a hand recorder, not thinking this was 1970. Then the first time I see this big reel-to-reel tape recorder, oh, okay, that's more in line with the 70s. So he says that your sister's here and she's here to pick you up, and he is tense about seeing his sister Catherine because he feels guilty that she's disfigured. And the doctor says she's not blaming you. He describes that she's got a plastic piece on her face to cover up the scar, but it's not plastic. It's kind of like rubber. It's like oh, whenever you're more into movies than me, whenever they do special effects on making like
Like latex,
yeah,
silicone.
latex,
Yeah,
that's what I'm looking for.
yeah.
So anyway,
Which honestly, you barely notice it.
yeah, yeah,
Like I didn't notice it until they showed a close up of it, and I was like, "Oh, right."
yeah. So as he's leaving the state hospital, this is where the inmate, played by, oh, what was her name again? Molly Dodd. This is where she has her only line, and she's like, You can't leave. You'll be back. You can't leave. You'll be back soon. And I thought, ooh, that's great acting. Then she's not in the rest of the movie, but I did like that little scene. So Catherine and Alan, they come to the home where the fire was, and this is where they're gonna live. And Alan is still half blind. And
And
Alan asks about,
this is very reminiscent of Psycho 2.
I saw Psycho 2 on a date with your mom when we were teenagers. I don't remember it. I remember we went
Wow.
to go see it. I remember completely being underwhelmed, I
Can't
guess.
believe my mom went to see Psycho 2. But no, it's because he gets released from the hospital at the
Yeah, that's
beginning
right.
and he goes home and I'm like, which I don't Psycho this was before Psycho 2, but I'm just like, poor Anthony Perkins. He got so typecast after Psycho.
Yeah, it's probably why I went to work in Europe a lot.
Probably. Yeah.
Um, so Alan asks about there's a sign in the yard that says room for rent. And so Alan asks about there's a sign in the yard, and Catherine says, yeah, it's a for rent sign. I need to take it out. It tells the kids because they do live in a campus neighborhood. Dad was a university professor. Alan taught at a university. His sister works at the university. Olive works at the university. So those of you who've been around a university housing setting, you kind of know what kind of neighborhood they're in. It kind of reminded me if you go to University City, right outside of Wash U campus, there's all those big houses there,
Mm.
and a lot of the professors live. One of my friends is a professor at Wash U, and her husband's house is one of these big, nice houses. I was in it once, and I thought, yeah, you're a university professor. I'm not. That's why I live in Peevely. So anyway, anyway, Catherine says that, the sign was for in case we wanted what they call a rumor, and I'm going to call a border. So if I use rumor or border, it's the same term.
Yeah, it's they keep saying rumor and I'm like, I've never heard it referred to as a rumor outside
I've
of
never
this
either.
movie.
It's always been a border. But anyway,
Yeah.
she says that, the kids on campus, we're giving them that opportunity. I'll get rid of the sign. So as they are going in, Olive comes running up to them and she asks about Alan, and Catherine says he's okay. Why don't you just come back tomorrow? So inside the house, Alan says he doesn't want to see anybody. I thought that
And
was
I was
funny.
like, ha, good thing you're blind then.
And that reminded me of a little story. My ex brother-in-law who passed away, George. Um, I was a kid, he was a teenager. We were at church and we were having a dinner, and we had a blind lady that went to our church. She went there the whole time I was there, and she was everybody at the table were talking, and someone mentioned something about somebody. She said, "Well, I just saw her the other day." And my brother-in-law could not stop laughing. And I am so glad that she was blind because she couldn't tell he was laughing. But just the blind woman say, "Yeah, I saw her the other day." He thought, "You didn't see anybody." So, oh, how immature. But anyway,
Yes.
um, Catherine says that he should see Olive. They were nearly once engaged. And he thought, I don't care. I'm blind now and I've had a trauma. And Catherine says that the house is cold because I can't afford to heat it, which kind of sucks. So upstairs, Alan looks at the boarded, burned room of his father, the best he can, kind of, and it's sealed off. And he asks about Olive. And Catherine says, well, she's well enough. She's lonely since her father died. She does a lot of her work from home, which is research. And that's what's going on with Olive. And then she tells Alan, your tape recorder's where you left it. And this is when I find out it's not a tape recorder, it's a big tape recorder. By the way, he's a music professor. That's why he's got this big tape recorder. So very handy. Um, and she says, I'll start dinner. And, I know this is awkward. He tells her, I know this is awkward, but I'm sorry about this whole thing. I'm sorry about your face. Sorry about dad dying. He said it a little more sincerely than I just did. Like,
Sorry about your
oh,
face.
sorry about the dad dying in your face, but hey, tacos for dinner. So,
Yeah. But it is Taco Tuesday, so get in the
yeah.
kitchen.
So she changes the subject about that she is making something festive for dinner, and that's kind of what happens whenever I try to have a serious conversation with one of my sisters. They tend to either make me cry or just completely go somewhere else with it. Um, so then we cut to the kitchen and she's preparing dinner, and Catherine is looking out the window from the sink and she sees her reflection and she kind of feels that latex, I'll call it, where covering up her scar. And then she goes into the sitting room, the parlor, and Alan is in there. And she said, I changed things around. And Alan is trying to get a feel literally for the house because he's blind. And
I thought that was a little insensitive of her. Oh yeah, I went ahead and changed the house you know so well. All the furniture's moved around. I figured since you can't see, it'd be fun to watch you trip over stuff.
yeah, kind of fun.
Did you ever?
Um,
There was a Family Guy cutaway where they're watching Little House on the Prairie, and the family's like deliberately steering the older sister, blind sister, into things like, "Oh, honey, you must be so disoriented," and then they're all giggling. It's awful.
so anyway, she says, Father's desk is in here. We're going to sell it for some kind of a library fundraiser because campuses are always raising fund. And he feels and he picks up two pictures, and then he notices there's a third one. And he says, Who's this? She says, Eric. And I don't know why I keep it up. And she said, he went to Australia after the fire. I guess he met someone over there. And Alan says, Well, I never did like him. And Alan says, I just want to be by myself for a while. So the next morning in the house,
Well, hold on,
Alan,
hold on. One of the pictures he picks up, he says, "This is mother," and I'm like, "You're not allowed to say mother. You
ah,
you can't. He can't say mother. He just can't. I'm sorry. It's too weird."
this is mama, mama, my mama. So anyway, the next morning in the house, Alan gets up and finds Catherine lighting a fire. It's a gas fire in the fireplace in I is this her bedroom or is this just the bedroom where the boarder is going to stay? I was kind of foggy on it.
I thought it was the boarder's room because when he goes in there later and there's a fireplace, right?
Yeah,
He sneaks in later, so I thought it was the boarder's room.
yeah.
Maybe I'm
So I was wondering, without a border there yet, why is she lighting a fire? I don't know. It was just I didn't know if it was her room or what, or if it was the boarder's room. So anyway, um, he asks what she's doing. She says, "Don't worry about this. I will get breakfast. I have to be at work early." So at the table, she is working to um she says she's working to keep the house, and she has a boarder named Harold who's going to come over. He goes to college where she works, and he is quiet due to a throat injury. So Catherine leaves for work. And the next scene where Alan is in his room and he's recording his
which sorry. Um, if this isn't all set up and situated, she absolutely should not be leaving this to Alan, who just got home, and this is all sprung on him, you know?
yeah, I know.
Like, I'm like, what, you can't leave if this boarder's coming to look at the room. You have to be here to deal with this.
At this point, she is a terribly insensitive sister.
Yes.
Yes, I pronounce her that. Um, so Alan's in his room and he's recording his apprehension about this boarder, Harold, who's going to be coming over. And he says, I'm not on trial here. He feels like, so he hears a sound and he goes into the room where the upstairs fireplace is. And he closes the door on the fireplace and turns off the gas to turn it off. And the clock strikes noon and Harold comes to the door, and Alan tells him the room is the first door on the left upstairs. And Harold comes in without saying a thing. And remember, Alan can't really see anything. All he knows is there's a figure named Harold in the house. And Alan goes in the kitchen and he's getting some tea. And then Harold comes down the kitchen stairs, startling Alan. And Harold says, I'm sorry. I thought this was going to take me back to the downstairs hall. And I get that because some of these big houses have these back stairs. We talked about this on one of the previous movies that the title is escaping me, where the lady's in the house and her husband is trying to kill her and her sister's not much help.
Oh, The Victim.
The
Yeah, the Elizabeth
victim, that's it.
Montgomery one. Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
it was reminding me of the victim. So Alan directs him to the other room and Harold leaves. And Alan hears the door again and snaps, What do you want? And it is Catherine who said she came back. I ran into Harold outside and he said he's going to take the room.
Mm, hold on. I do want to say I thought that was a very creepy scene because they never show Harold's face. Like, even when it's not from Alan's point of view, they just show him from behind. So you don't get a good look at this guy. And he is speaking with that rough voice that she told him about. So
Yeah,
it was well done. I liked it.
I did too. Okay. And Catherine says that she feels a draft from upstairs and the window is open. She sets the window and relights the fireplace. Alan goes up and seems agitated by her lighting the fireplace. I don't know. Maybe if you roast your dad, you kind of have a thing about fire, you know? I, I don't know that for sure because I've never set my dad on fire and I don't
Well,
plan to.
I could try and experiment on you, and then we'll see how I react to fire after.
Well, it's a good thing you got a stepdad you can try that with, okay?
I would burn him before you.
Oh,
So
that's the sweetest thing you've ever said to me. Um, so back in the kitchen in the evening, Catherine asked, Will it bother you to have Harold here? And he said, I do wish we could wait a little. It's difficult for me to be around strangers. And uh, she says that he won't be here much except to sleep and to have those wild, drug infested college parties, you know, the ones that you
yeah.
used to host. Yeah.
Oh yeah, of course I did.
So,
I was a party animal in college.
yep. Yep.
Yeah, I was wild, unstoppable.
It was
Yeah.
terrible.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why we kept calling the police on you. Um, so uh Alan leaves and the phone rings and he leaves the room and Catherine picks up the phone and it was Harold saying he wants to move in tomorrow. And Alan is listening from the upstairs foyer. He's not like eavesdropping on a line, but he can hear from the upstairs foyer. Catherine doesn't know he's up there. And Alan tells her that she sounded upset. And he's put it together that that's Harold and he's going to be moving in. So the next morning, Alan is in the kitchen and Olive comes in the back door and startles Alan. And he drops his coffee or tea or whatever morning drink he has that's hot. And she says, Catherine gave me a key. So while you guys were gone, I could keep an eye on things. And she says, Oh, I baked you a cake. And she said, We can have some with breakfast. He said, I just had breakfast. Olive said, Okay, I will leave then. If you need anything, let me know. I can help you with things. I can drive you somewhere. And he says, Nope. So Olive offers to wash the dishes, but Alan says he will do them. And so she leaves dejected. For someone that you were almost engaged to who had no skin in this game. I don't know why he's being such a dick to her. I mean, I if I was in a state mental institution with this kind of trauma, that would be the one person I'd want to see. Oh my gosh, I missed you. Do you still
Right?
love me?
Yeah.
How's our baby? We didn't have a baby. Well,
There's no
wrong
baby.
woman. So,
No, I wrote down like unless Alan's personality was completely different before the fire, I don't see why these two were together. They've got nothing in common, and maybe it's because I have seen Joan Hackett mostly in lighthearted things like Support Your Local Sheriff, and Anthony Perkins is Norman Bates. But I'm like, why are they a couple, or were they a couple? It was just they didn't mesh well to
yeah,
me.
yeah. So we cut to Alan listening to an LP, an album, a vinyl album, like I listen to. This is another reason why I like Anthony Perkins. Awesome.
Yeah, he was the only one doing that at the
Yeah,
time.
back in the 70s, no one was listening to LPs. They were all listening to CDs in the 70s or MP3s or something. I don't remember. Um, so as he's listening to an LP, there's a knock on the door, and Catherine asks if he wants anything before she goes to bed. And she reminds him that Harold will be coming over. So if you hear something, it's Harold coming over. So then she goes to bed. Alan hears the sounds of Harold coming upstairs. So Alan locks his doors, which is prudent. That's what I would do if there was a boarder who was so weird and creepy. Just, yeah,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
So the next morning, Alan wakes up to a sound and he goes into the bathroom and he's feeling around the medicine cabinet and he opens it to get his toothbrush. And at first, I thought he cut himself. And then it's like, no, the toothbrush is wet. So that's kind of gross. That means that someone's used this toothbrush.
That's very concerning. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially if they use it to clean the toilet. But anyway,
Oh God.
so he goes to Harold's room and knocks, and there's no answer. Catherine comes upstairs asking, what is up? And he says, how well do you know this Harold dude? Everything he brought in is in one arm. It's like he we don't see him. He doesn't say anything. He's gone all the time, and he has no possessions. What's up with that? Come on, sis, you can tell me. Come on, let's go have a stiff drink and talk this Harold situation out.
Well, I mean, the possessions thing might be a little weird, but a college guy might necessarily spend a lot of time at home except to sleep, like she said he would do in the first place. So I don't think that in and of itself is weird.
But when you're a little mentally imbalanced from a trauma, maybe everything seems weird.
Yeah.
Could
It,
be.
it is weird if he used your toothbrush, though. I back him on that.
Oh yeah, yeah. So Alan asked Catherine, what did you tell him about me? She said, well, I told him you can't see there too well. And Alan says, well, he's too quiet and I don't want him here. And she says, well, he has paid in advance. He's going to have to be here. So you just need to suck it up, brother. Suck it up, buttercup, and get used to it because Harold is here to stay. No, she didn't get that dramatic,
That's
but
what she said. Yeah.
so that night, Alan is in bed again and he hears Harold come in. So he unlocks his door and goes to look around. And the downstairs door to the kitchen is open and he can tell it's open because there's a light. And, like we've already established, you can't see much, but blurs. So he looks, he walks towards and he's kind of looking down there and he hears someone whispering, Alan, Alan. And at first he didn't give it no thought, and then he remembered, oh, that's my name. Yeah, my name is Alan. So um he turns on the second floor foyer light, and it's just now the blur is light. So the next morning, Olive comes strolling in the back door, and apparently Alan has called her over, which made her very happy. And she makes him some canned soup. Oh, nothing says romance like a can of generic canned soup. And
I love soup branded soup.
yeah. So she makes him some soup And she says, it's odd both of us being here in this condition. You've been in the trauma. My dad's died, blah, blah, blah. Um, and then he says, have you seen the border? And she said, at first he said rumor, and I thought, what rumor? You don't see rumors, you hear them. Oh, rumor. Yeah. Um, she says no, and mm, uh she says you need to try to talk to him. He says, I don't like him. Something feels wrong about him. He wants to trick me into something. Hmm. So she says, Alan, you really need to get out. She says, I'm going to make you get out into the world and show Catherine she is wrong. He says, wrong about what? And she says, hey, Catherine's made a lot of changes too. She worshiped your father, and now he's passed away. And then Alan says, yeah, and she slaved for him and gave up a chance to get married for him. She did all kinds of crap for him. Dad was mentally abusive to Catherine, and Catherine's too stupid to know it. That's what I heard. It's not what he said, but that's what I heard. And Catherine thinks I should have stayed in the hospital, doesn't she? And Olive says, well, she thinks maybe you came home too soon. Yeah, that's exactly what I said. She thinks I should have stayed in the hospital longer. And she said, well, right along with me, I need to pick a few things up on campus. Please do it. And he says, okay. And well, first he says, no, it's too soon, but she does talk him into it. Probably, I'll flush your ring down the toilet, your Fred Flintstone ring. That happened to me, by the way, when I was in second grade. I gave Lisa Tucker a Fred Flintstone ring, and she flushed it down the toilet when we broke up. If you can break up in second grade, I didn't know what I was doing. I had a ring, and I saw my sisters would go steady with guys. So, hey, want to go steady? She said, sure. So I gave her a Fred Flintstone ring. Isn't that
That
romantic?
bitch. I can't believe she flushed your ring.
Oh, yeah. And if I could find her, man, I would tell her, I want my Fred Flintstone ring back. Okay. Or I'll sick Bam Bam on you. So he relents and they are in the car and she says, I must stop by this building on campus for just a moment, return some books. Maybe it's a library. I didn't put that together till now. So anyway, Catherine gets out and Alan is sitting in the car because what's he going to do? He can't see much. And there's a group of students that are nearby on the steps. And one says, you want to hear something crazy? And tells a story to the other. You can't hear the story, and they're laughing. So uh, Alan hears the muddled laughter and he snaps to attention. Think, oh my gosh, there's weird people after me or something. I don't know. And
He
then he
thinks
hears the whispers. Alan.
I thought he thought the students were laughing at him,
Yeah,
but they weren't.
Alan. No, they're laughing at him. So anyway, he looks and he makes out a figure and he thinks, well, they're screwing with me and they're calling my name. I need to get out of here. So he slides into the driver's side and puts the car in gear. And he attempts to drive away, but remember, he's blind. It's very hard to see or to drive when you can't see. So Olive comes out of the building to see him driving erratically down the street, just and he veers
Oh,
into a
did you, sir? Sir.
what's that?
I said, poor Olive. He did just crash the car.
Yeah, yeah. So he veers into a post on campus and knocks it down. And Olive comes out of the building to see him driving, or Olive comes to the scene and asks if he is okay. And there are three guys in black coats and black stocking hats that are taking in the scene. And I guess he maybe thinks that they're the ones that were laughing or so. I don't know. Um, but I thought maybe this would be important for later on in the movie. It absolutely wasn't. We never see them again. Um, but we
Don't worry about
probably
it.
didn't like background players of the Brady Bunch were all in the family, but that's about it. So anyway, we are back at the house and Catherine brings dinner to Alan's room.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Hold on. I want to say they get back to the house and Olive is the one apologizing. she fully takes the blame for all this. And I'm like, oh, honey, you can do better.
Yeah, but she should not have left the keys in the car running with a guy who is freshly out of the trauma unit at a state hospital, though. Let's
I
get real.
suppose so.
So, um, Catherine brings dinner to Alan's room back at the house, and she says, "You'll feel better. Won't you feel better if you tell me what happened?" And Alan says it was Harold. He called me by my name, and Olive said, uh, and Olive said, "You, Catherine, didn't want me to come home." Um, and she said, "Well, my nerves get a little frayed too. And perhaps you should talk to the doctor that was suggested to you by the doctor at the state hospital. And someone who can, then he says, yeah, someone who can send me back to the state hospital." So Alan stands up and accidentally knocks over his dinner and in an unconvincing tone says, "I am sorry." You know, kind of like when my kids deserve an apology. And Alan will say, "Man, I'm sorry." "I am sorry. Duh.
No,
Dad,
I
I'm
was
not sorry
thinking
for anything."
it's like when you're a kid, you do something wrong and your parents make you apologize, so you say it even though you're not sorry.
Yeah, my mom would say you're sorry. I didn't know what sorry meant, you know?
Hmm.
And those poor Canadian kids have to say sorry. Could you imagine being a Canadian kid doing something wrong and then walking up to someone to say, "I'm sorry," and they just laugh at you? Oh my gosh, it's sorry. You
No, it's the
stupid
that's
blockheaded Canadian.
no, that's a South Park bit that sticks in my head. Butters is dating this Canadian exchange student, and she says that. She goes, "I'm sorry." And he goes, "What's sorry?" And she goes, "Oh, it's how we Canadians express remorse." And he's like, "It's beautiful language." So stupid.
Oh, I love Butters. So the next scene, we're at the kitchen table, and Alan is at the table, and Olive comes in with something. I couldn't tell what it was, and I thought she said it's a Beethoven. Is that what you heard?
Someone's trying to get in my room.
I mean, not
I don't
now. Look like
I don't
I hear
remember.
Beethoven. Anyway, she comes in with something and she apologizes and stays for coffee. And she asks, "Has Catherine seen Eric yet?" And he says, "Eric is back." And she said, "Yeah, I saw him yesterday at the garage looking for work." And he puts together that Catherine was on the phone with Eric the other day, Eric being Catherine's ex-boyfriend that she had the photo of. Uh, and so now he thinks Harold is Eric. Oh,
Yes, and I put this all together too. And then I thought, no, that's got to be a red herring because we're only halfway through this movie,
yeah,
is what I thought at the time.
yes. So the next scene, he's in the room with his reel-to-reel recording himself, and he says, "I believe there is no Harold, it's all Eric." And he thinks Harold wants to do him some harm because the house and the valuables are half in his name. And that's why I've never been rich because I don't want to be paranoid that people wanted all my money.
Very
That's
smart of you.
Yeah, I had plenty of chances to be rich in my life.
Mm,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, the world's most successful cattle wrestler. I passed that job up. The world's first geriatric male stripper. I passed that one up too. Um, and just just so people wouldn't want my stuff, like my stupid pictures on the walls and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So he walks to the upstairs foyer and he sees a figure, but it is Catherine. Later on, they're eating dinner and he asks, "What department is Harold in?" Meaning, what's he majoring in? She says, "I think biology." And he said, "I imagine he looks like Eric." "Why didn't you tell me Eric was back in town?" She says, "He's not back in town." He says, "Oh, I guess Olive's just seeing things because I'm not." Um, there's a nice little joke there. Um, he hasn't gotten in touch with you. That's strange. And doesn't Harold mind living in a house with a crazy blind man? And she says, well, I don't think he knows the particulars about you, besides you can't see well. And he says, I should have a talk with Harold. Hmm. So that night it is raining. It is raining cats and dogs. And Alan comes out of his room and he hears whispers of his name. The stairs to the kitchen
Okay, hold on.
open again and lit.
The constant Alan. Did you ever see Jurassic Park 3?
Maybe. I don't, they
Okay,
all
so
started running together after the first one.
okay, so rest in peace, Sam Neill. But in part 3, there is a moment where he falls asleep on the plane on his way to the island, and he has a dream that there's a velociraptor on the plane, and the velociraptor looks at him and goes, Alan. And then he wakes up, and it's the funniest thing. You've got to look up that clip. And that's all I could think about every time someone said Alan, the talking velociraptor.
You just gave away the end of this. It was a velociraptor the whole time.
Oh, sorry.
Um, where am I at? So a hand grabs him as he's kind of at the top of the stairs and tries to pull him down the stairs. And he gets away and then he locks himself in his room, as one would do if someone's trying to pull you down the stairs when you're half blind. So the next day, Catherine comes to Alan's room and she knocks, and Alan comes to the door. She says, breakfast is downstairs. I will see you this evening. And so Alan locks himself in his room again, and then he starts talking to his reel to reel. And he says, Harold tried to pull me downstairs last night, but I need proof. And then he goes into the kitchen. He picks up a knife and he sees a figure at the door. The figure sees him with the knife. Alan drops the knife. The figure shouts, he will go get Olive. And he has cut himself with the knife. Olive comes over and dresses the cut. And he says, Olive, I need proof. And by the way, we have no idea who that guy was, do we?
No.
He's just some rando looked in the, oh, I'll go get Olive. Thinking,
Yeah. I'm
who
like,
are you, dude?
right. I just wondered by the set.
So yeah, he came by with a bunch of olives. Here, pick out an olive, okay? So um anyway, Olive comes over, she's dressing his wound, and says, Olive, I need proof he is trying to get me. And I'm not trying to kill myself. And he says, she says, I haven't seen Eric here. And he says, but you haven't seen Harold either. You've not seen the border as Harold or as Eric, you know? What good are you? He didn't say that. So he says, there is a spare key to Catherine's room in a chest, or in Catherine's room in a chest that will get you into the room that Harold is allegedly staying in. And he says, I need it. Then he says, you said you'd do anything to help me, remember? Yeah, throw that back in her face. Yeah.
Right.
Hi, we're gonna go knock off a liquor store, set it on fire. You remember you said you'd do anything for me?
Right. People only say that when they want you to do something illegal or unethical.
That's right. That's right. So they go into the room, and in the room they find a book that was written by his father, and it is signed by Harold Dennis. Okay. And then the next scene, we cut to the evening with a thunderstorm, and he is in the room listening to his tapes about how he thinks Harold is Eric. Catherine knocks on the door. She brings him some tea. She asks him about his cut on his hand, and she tells him she called the doctor out of necessity. She says, I didn't want to. He said, Catherine, I tried to stop you from going into that room. Catherine says, I tried to stop you from going into that room. And she says, at least talk to the doctor. And he says, I'd rather go to hell. Oh my gosh. So uh, clearly you can't look after yourself. And he says, I can't stay here. You're right. I need to go to the hospital again. We could talk about seeing the doctor in the morning. So she leaves and he gets out his coat and puts it on, and he's going to walk out in the storm. She's went to bed. And outside, he hears the voice again of the velociraptor, I guess. And it's very stormy. So, on top of him not being able to really see, there's lightning, thunder, all kinds of stuff going on. So, the next thing we cut to Alan's room, and the doctor and Catherine are there, and they are giving Alan oxygen. I mean, I guess he got really sick in that thunderstorm.
I guess so.
And the doctor says he must have been out for several hours. It's too stormy to take him to the hospital, but he does need rest. So Alan starts having dreams while he's in this drug-induced stupor of his dad and Catherine from when they were kids. And in one scene, he sees dad and Catherine that are beckoning him to come into dad's office. And his dad says, "Show me your hands." And his dad shows him something. I couldn't tell what he was showing him. Could you?
No.
Anyway, it was something apparently that was dad deemed bad. And so dad has him hold out his hands, and dad starts wrapping his hands with a ruler, which really surprised me. I had no idea this twist was happening. Dad is a Catholic school teacher.
Who
So,
knew?
yeah.
Well, and also the little girl playing Catherine is so creepy looking. She looks
Oh,
like a ventriloquist dummy.
yeah, it was very
Like,
creepy. Yep.
get this child away from me.
So um Alan he hides in a closet, and then he kind of wakes up, falls back asleep, and this time he walks into his dad's study, and dad or Catherine just look at him and start laughing. And I thought, oh my gosh, I remember when my parents and sisters, I'd walk in the room, they just look at me and laugh creepily. Brought back so many memories. So then Alan wakes up, and Catherine is sleeping in a chair in his room, and then he falls back to sleep. Then he wakes up, and it is snowing suddenly. And Catherine comes in with tea and breakfast, and she gives him some pills to his protest, but he takes them. And she says, "I want you well, the sooner well." And he says, "The sooner I get well, the sooner I am away." Right, right, sis, right, sis, you big bitch. That's what he was saying to her. But um, she says, "Olive will be here shortly, and I'll try and be back earlier today." Catherine so reminds me of certain family members I have who cannot take any kind of discord, even when necessary, will completely just act like everything's fine. The whole world could be following, oh, everything's great. Everything's great. Would you just admit that life is dirty and sometimes it's dirty? But anyway, Alan, next scene, he's sitting up, he's listening to some of his music, and he hears the door close, and someone comes up. Catherine knocks, and she asks, "How is our roomer tonight?" And Alan says, or he asks her, Alan asks Catherine, "How is our roomer tonight?" And she says, "I didn't see him." And he said, "Well, he just came in." And she said, "I missed him, I guess." And he's thinking, "Yeah, right. You missed him, you know." And he says, "I think I should go back to the hospital. Wouldn't it be odd if you and the roomer are just here, you and the college kid are just here?" And she says, "Well, perhaps you won't go back to the hospital." Yeah. So at night, Alan is upstairs in the upstairs foyer, and he hears the voice, and he sees a figure beckoning him. He walks towards it. He goes to the burned out room of his father, which is sealed. Um, but he gets in, and leaves the room. Um, and some rafters fall when he leaves the room. So the next morning, Catherine comes to his room. She's running late. She says, "Olive will be here to get breakfast." And he asks her, "Last night, did anything happen?" "No, I guess it was a nightmare." Catherine leaves. So he is snooping by his dad's door, and he finds a charred piece of wood, which proves that he wasn't dreaming. He did get in the room, and there were some rafters that fell. I'm not as crazy as you think I am. So he gets dressed, and he calls the state hospital for the doctor in the psych division. The doctor is not in, and he won't be in for a while. And he says, well, I can make the trip up there myself. So he calls a cab. And then Olive comes to the kitchen, and Alan hides from her. Yeah, he's hiding, like going around the house. She's calling for him, and finally he
Yeah.
hides like behind this old divan, Davenport, and and I did notice in that scene that the picture of Eric is standing face up back on that table in that room. So
Mm.
yeah. So um Alan eventually sneaks outside because he thinks the cab is coming, and he sees some figures, and there are some kids, they're playing and they're laughing, and in his mind he thinks that they're laughing at him. And then the cab shows up, and as Alan is walking out to the cab, being it's been snowing, he slips and falls, and Olive comes out, and so does the cab driver. And Olive looks at the cab driver. She says, Eric, I didn't know you were back in town. And he talks with his gravelly voice. He says, I would have come to see you sooner, but I just got this job.
Which Olive's the one who told him he was back in
Yeah, I
town.
know. Little bit of hole here. So,
Yeah. But also it was weird for me to like, oh, they're just showing Eric now. I don't know, it felt like they were building up for more of a reveal than that. But there
yeah.
he is.
So back in the house, Olive tells him the charred piece of wood he found is no big deal. And he says it means that the door was open. Um, why why did Eric lie about being back in town? And she says, well, he explained he changed his mind. So he says, Olive, you're the only person I trust. Mm. The voices should be on the tape. Yeah, I had the tape. We should be able to hear the voices. Olive turned it on, but she refuses to turn it on. And that was the problem with their relationship. She refused to turn him on. But anyway, anyway, um, so he starts going through this diatribe. There never was a border. Um, uh, or she says there never was a border. Catherine and I discussed this, and he says he was here. He was in this house. I talked to him. Uh, she said, well, that's true, but he only came in once. And he said, what about the book? And he asked her, why are you lying? And he starts throwing things, and he chases Olive out of the house. And she says,
Yeah.
I'm going to go get Blue Toe.
And at this point, I'm like, are we supposed to be doubting him? Because Catherine and he have talked openly about this rumor border living in the house, you know? So either Catherine is lying to Olive and Olive's believing it, or Olive is in on it. Those are our only options here.
That's it. It's one or the other, man. That's it.
Or the Velociraptor. That's, outside
Okay.
chance.
So he forces his way into what should be Harold slash Eric's room. And he can't find any evidence that anybody's living there. There's no clothes in there. There's nothing. And so he goes to his room and he locks the door, and he hears the voice on the recorder, and he picks it up and he smashes it like the Hulk
I
smash.
know. And I'm like, don't smash your evidence, dude.
Yeah. So then Catherine and Olive come to his room, but he won't let them in. And then that night, Alan leaves his room, and as he is leaving, he hears the voice. Um, who is it? And he sees a figure, and he follows the voice and the figure into the walk-in cupboard. And he sees some bags on the floor of the cupboard, sees blobs. You can't make out that they're bags. Someone pushes him into the cupboard and sets the bags on fire. They were flammable. It was a trap. And they shut the door, locked the door, trapping Alan in there with this flame. But in his blind, smoke-infused stupor, he finds huge sacks of flour, and he puts out the flames by dousing them with flowers. And then he breaks down the door, and he sees the figure and they start tussling in the kitchen and Alan subdues the figure and his sight comes back. Who's the figure? Tell him, Tabitha.
It's the Velociraptor. I was right. No, it's Catherine.
It's Catherine. Oh my gosh.
Which
Um,
again, is this supposed to be a twist? This?
well, so as his sight comes back, he reaches for that latex part, peels it off her face, and she has no scar. And I'm thinking, Catherine, you manipulative little hussy. Come on, man.
And
That was mean.
if your face looks fine, what are you so mad about? Your
Yeah,
dad?
yeah,
Who
huh?
cares?
Yeah. So she admitted that she did this because he killed her father. Yeah. So we cut to another day. Alan comes home. He gets a letter, and it's from Catherine, who's in
Wait,
the
hold
state
on.
hospital.
Hold on. There was more to it than that. Um, so it seems like Eric had nothing to do with this. Like there was that guy who came when Alan was home by himself was a potential boarder, but he decided not to take the room. And she decided to screw with Alan by pretending that there was a boarder living there. So she was doing all of that stuff, not Eric.
Yeah.
I'm just letting the people know.
Okay. Yeah, I probably should have explained that, but
But you're bad at this. It's fine.
yeah, I'm terrible at this. I mean, I'm not the one who said it was a velociraptor, but I could be worse at this.
It was a valid theory.
So we cut to another day. Alan comes home and he gets a letter from Catherine, who's at the state hospital. Oh, how the times have turned.
Oh, how the
Um,
turntables.
and yeah, that's where I had it. She said there really was a Harold Dennis, but his mom died and he never rented the room. Um, as he reads, Olive comes down the stairs, so they're a happy couple again. He is teaching music appreciation again at the college. They kiss. And Catherine says her progress is good and she will be coming back soon. And after reading this letter, his blindness comes back.
It was stupid.
Closing credits. Tabitha, have I seen this before as a 4-year-old child? Did I see a repeat of this, or was this the first time I saw this?
You saw a repeat. You weren't watching this at 4.
This is the first time I saw this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But it's one of the TV movies that you hear about. Okay. Do you give it a classic or a trash it?
I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence. There's stuff about it I really liked, but it was just a little it just lacked an oomph, I guess, to put it over the edge.
Yeah, I read some scathing reviews of this before I watched it. It was not well received. People said it was boring, so on and so forth. I was invested in this, but I did not like the end. I thought it
Mhm.
was too predictable. Um, and I thought the silly thing at the end where it's blindness, first of all, the whole blindness thing that was kind of a stretch for me. And then it came back when, he found out his sister was coming home, so on and so forth. I'm on the fence too. I'm going to give it a slight classic because I do like Anthony Perkins and I thought his performance was pretty good.
It was. It
Um,
was. That's fair.
but the acting has it above the border, the story has it below the border, so I had to figure out something. So I like Anthony Perkins, so I'm gonna give it a slight classic. So by the way, you can see that on YouTube on about 3 or 4 different plat or
Yeah.
people who've uploaded it. So take your
Yeah.
pick. So what are we gonna do next week, Tabitha?
Next week we are going to do the 1972 film called The Astronaut with Monty Markham.
With who?
Monty Markham.
I have never heard of him.
Okay, well you'd probably recognize him once you see him.
Okay. So Um, wait a minute. Oh, that was The Martian. As I say, I've seen this with Matt Damon. That was The Martian. So,
Yeah, no, that did not come out in 1972.
no, I don't even know if Matt Damon was alive. Is he my age or is he younger or older?
I think well, actually, that's a good question. Now I gotta look that up.
And the more important thing is who's hotter, me or Matt Damon?
Matt Damon is hotter than you. He's just a little bit younger than you. He was born in 1970.
What a punk. All right. So next week we will do The Martian, and
The
you all have a
astronaut.
I'm old. So, all right. So we will see you all next week. Thanks for joining us.